DJ Big Reeks.
What up?
Welcome to No Request TV.
Thank you, man. Happy to be here, bro.
Welcome to Miami.
Excited to be here.
Yeah. Finally, been in the works for a long time, but we're finally able to make it happen.
Yep.
How you enjoy Miami?
Oh, it's amazing. As I just told you, I just extended my stay. So, who would not want to be here for extended periods of time?
Yeah, Miami will do that to you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's a great city. Always loved it. Happy to now be here working, actually making a check while I'm here. Me and my homie manifested that years ago. And last night it came to life, a few other spots, yeah.
It's always good to get paid to travel.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And put a little change in your pocket.
Definitely.
While you're getting around.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, what's your background? Where you from? Give them the rundown.
So, man, I am a Guyanese American, firstborn American in my family, born in actually West Palm Beach, not far from here. We moved to Miami afterwards, and then we ended up in Houston a few years later. Had family here, so that's why I'm familiar with Florida, Miami, Orlando. But yeah, my entire family, mom, dad, and their brothers and sisters, all from Georgetown, Guyana, in South America. Yeah, we came here in the late '70s, and the family's been trickling in ever since. So I've been in Houston most of my life, though. That's Houston is home. So yeah, man.
What was being played in the house on a Saturday? It's time to clean up the house. What kind of music? What kind of artists?
Oh man, Al Green.
First music. Okay, Al Green.
Yeah, Michael Jackson. Isaac Hayes. My dad loves Isaac Hayes. Definitely one of his favorites was Isaac Hayes. And then of course Bob Marley. And then some soca favorites by my parents. They used to have wild house parties too. So it's funny, we clean up, do the easy listening, and then later on that night, dance party. But imagine back then I was running through Thriller, and everybody always has this debate whether they think Thriller or what's the other one?
Bad?
No. Thriller or
Off the Wall.
Off the Wall is the better album.
Yeah.
My homie's always nerding out debating that. So
I
was just running through both of them, but I was literally like, "Hey, you could go through these albums 2 hours and like you have a full party for 2 hours off of just those two albums. Like just run them back to back and you're good for a while. Like that could start any party off."
That's a really important point right there you made, because going from the LP generation to the iPod Shuffle generation, it was really important what album you put on, because you're not going to get up there and start moving the needle. Oh, I don't like this song, or let me skip this side. It had to be good from start to finish.
Yes.
That's a real good point that you
made. And albums were constructed that way, I think. Because, you're like, okay, the only way they can play this is this way. So this album has to be fire. Like, whole thing, it has to move well, and those two albums did. They moved very well. Yeah. But yeah, so a lot of old school R&B. My dad, even still now, still the same. Still listening to that stuff, Dean Martin, he loves My Way, loves to sing that out loud. Man, my full disclosure, my dad taught me how to dance when I was like maybe 16. He's always had mad rhythm. I still don't have like crazy rhythm, but like it ain't nothing just amazing. I'm not an amazing dancer,
right?
But my dad always had good rhythm. But he literally taught me how to. I was like, man, I love music, but I can't really, I don't know if I'm nervous or what, but he's like, nah, this is what you do. Yeah, I'll never forget that night.
That's a good,
I know.
a good father right there.
Yeah, man.
Talk about, you said you moved from South Florida and then moving to Houston.
Right.
I know from the outside looking in, we all have our perceptions of Houston.
Right.
But coming from here, coming from a South American background, what was it like growing up in Houston for you?
Man, to be honest, it was we were in our little bubble. We had friends, but we had our selective friends, and most of our friends were foreign. They were either Hispanic or Laotian, or they were other West Indians, Trinidadians, Colombians, Dominicans. So we were well cultured in these parties, drinking, eating traditional food.
Mm-hmm.
For the longest time, my friends thought I was Mexican. They were like, "Your dad speaks Spanish? Like, your hair is kind of different. You look different." They just assumed I was Mexican. They all called me Mexican.
Right.
But in Houston, we're around plenty of Hispanic people. And mostly Mexican. Like the Mexican culture in Houston is vast.
Mm-hmm.
So people not knowing any better, they just throw us in, with everything else.
Right.
But even myself, I didn't know a lot about my own culture, until later on. I started asking questions and learning. I really didn't even know exactly where we were from and what our culture was. You know what I mean? I just knew what we did. But then meeting other people, talking to my cousins, stuff like that, then I started to understand a little bit more about us. Yeah.
What were some of the Houston artists you were listening to growing up? And paint the picture for the audience. What year is this? What's going on in the city at this time?
So this is probably okay. Me growing up, for me, I was not even heavy into Houston music.
Gotcha.
I had cousins that were in tune with New York music and New York radio. My cousin that was a DJ, he had all these reggae records, all this, tribe, true hip hop records, and that's what I had got into. So I was pretty much a loner. I stayed to myself. I had my selective friends, but we all enjoyed East Coast music
Right.
and hip hop. Not everybody in Houston enjoyed that at all. Like, we were literal outcasts. Like, even now, the guys that come to my parties at home, they're still the same. We all grew up, enjoying and listening to, the Biggies and the Jay-Z's and, the Nas and Mobb Deep. And the guys that were from the surrounding areas, North Side, South Side, they were just only listening to Screw and Screw artists, Big Pokey, SUC, all of those guys, from whichever clique. So, but later in high school, as I developed a friendship with a friend named Albert, he's actually out in Florida. He's in Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
And him and I would go through music together. I started with this Master P movement. Like, I was like, man, I love this. Like, Master P's sound, something about it. And I was buying all those albums, everyone that came out. This was let me see. I think that might have been later. I think that was after high school. But in high school, I remember specifically wanting to talk about everything that my friends were talking about. So I went and bought this Youngster album, and it had Beating Down the Block, knocking pictures off the wall. And so I liked that. I had loved the melody of that song. And I was like, man, let me check out the rest of the album and see if it's cool. And then again, I wanted to, we're riding in the car. This is 1996, riding around in Houston, and we're jamming these albums, and I wanted to know what they were. I didn't want to be the only one in the car that didn't know, this song. So Young Star, that album, like, that's kind of where I started with H-Town. But my friends were making screw tapes, their own screw tapes back in the day.